Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Unscripted with Dane and myself, who is Chris. And we started this podcast. Actually, Dane, why did we start this podcast?
Actually, I was thinking about it this morning, actually. As I was getting sorting everything out and whatever, and I was like, a week ago we spoke about it, and now we're doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
And
that was crazy.
Yeah. Am I wrong in saying that it's actually something you've been wanting to do for longer than a year, right?
Oh, no, definitely. So I started one a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the visuals, so it was just audio.
Yeah.
And like you know me, I was overthinking everything. And so basically I stopped because I wasn't happy with how things were looking and things like that. But I always had it on my heart.
Yeah.
Like, you know, off camera we spoke about it and things like that. I still want to do it. I know this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So and I mean, when we spoke last week, it was just like perfect.
Yeah, it was lining up.
Exactly.
Because what a big thing is, but last week is when we spoke, we were speaking like very openly and honestly.
Yeah.
And we thought, because we've been through some stuff, and we actually thought, well, it's good to talk honestly like this, and it's maybe something someone else could actually find some help from as well.
Definitely,
some guidance.
Definitely, yeah. And at the end of the day, look, I feel like whatever we do go through, it's there to help, especially if you've gone through it, you've overcome situations. It's there to help the next person. I mean, you see it all the time. You see it everywhere on social media all the time. You know, I've been through this. This is how I got through this, and that's a guideline for the next person.
Yeah.
So I think this is good.
I think so.
I'm very excited for it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we like I
we're jumping into
exactly
and literally
sink or swim.
We're literally figuring it out. One step at a time. And it's really, the way we're doing that is the same as where we are sort of in life in general. It's just sort of figuring it out.
Definitely. And as we grow and develop, you know, the conversation will as well, you know, with the podcast and everything like that. So I'm super excited.
Yeah.
We decided to go on the topic of starting.
Yeah.
So, you know, in general, you know, starting a podcast or
starting anew.
Yeah.
Starting over
with whatever it is in life.
Yeah.
So I think it's a broad topic as well.
Yeah.
I think it's scary as well to start.
So
scary. Because there's so many, and a lot of times we try and start certain things and we talk ourselves out of certain things. You know, I'll make an example. Maybe for the podcast, I've started it. I went back and I've been wanting to start it again. And you talk yourself out of it. The audio is not as good. The camera is not as good or whatever. And we sit with things we know we're supposed to do, but don't do it because we talk ourselves out of it. So it's a hard thing to start.
So I can give an example as well. Is, you know, I make music.
Yeah.
The amount, and I write and stuff, and the amount that I do versus the amount that I put out there for most of my life, I would make something, look at it and think, this is not good.
Yeah.
I just take it away again because, but if you always do that, you will never be good if you don't put the bad stuff out there.
Exactly.
You have to start.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's scary though.
Yeah, it's so scary.
It's so scary. And, I heard this quote also a while back, right? It said, if you couldn't fail, how big would you dream? Right? And I feel like it's not necessarily the same thing, but the principle is the same. We feel like when we start, we have this fear of what's people going to think, or, you know, how am I going to seem to the next person, or it throws you off, and that holds us back.
Yeah.
So the bad, like you said, you make music and so forth, that bad songs that you think is bad, because someone else might think it's actually good, and you know, but because you have that sense of fear, it's like, I'm not going to put it out. I'm going to talk myself out of it, or whatever the case is, you know, which is unfair towards ourselves.
I think, everyone's hardest critic is always going to be themselves.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. It's also because if I start something, or for example, if you say, look, I want to make this song. This is my intention now. We have that sense of, I expect it to be this way. And if it doesn't meet that expectations,
then you're disappointed, right? You immediately think this is not good enough. What's the point of trying?
Exactly.
Like with your podcast that you've tried before. Right? You set up this thing and you were invested and you were excited.
Yeah, I know.
Definitely. Right? And then when reality didn't meet your initial expectation.
Yeah.
Then you thought,
yeah, exactly.
Right. It is that thing of you gotta push through the holiday.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta just say, fuck it.
Do it, man. And then just go and do it. Yeah.
And start with whatever you do have.
Yeah.
You don't have to have everything.
Yeah.
But start. If you know deep down that you need to start this.
Yeah.
Start it.
Yeah. Because it's also I think, and I don't know how accurate this is, but if your underlying reasons for doing something is good, right? You want to help someone.
Yes.
You want to grow, whatever, a good underlying reason.
Yes.
I think it has the potential to work out, right?
No, definitely. Definitely. With obviously with a sense of consistency.
Yeah.
And, always wanting to grow, always wanting to better things, re-looking at things.
Yeah.
Because like for us, for an example, we're going to start this thing now. This is our first recordings.
Yeah.
We're going to look at it. We're going to be like, okay, I noticed I did this much. This is not good. I'm going to start doing this. Or the angle should be here, or the lighting, or whatever the case may be, And that's how you learn.
Yeah, you try.
Fail. Yeah,
exactly. You learn by failing.
Exactly. And I think failure is definitely part of the journey.
Absolutely. It's an essential part.
So it's almost like you need to be excited to fail, because
I think that's a very mature mindset to have.
Yeah.
Like you hear about people saying, you need to grow from failure or accept failure.
Yeah.
But saying you need to be excited to look forward to, right? That's
next level.
That's the next level.
No, definitely. Yeah. But I mean, the point of it is you need to also accept that you're going to fail.
Yeah.
That's what's part of life. It's reality. If you're going to start something or try something, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm saying be excited for it, because if you do fail, you learn.
Yeah.
You learn through failure.
Yeah.
And like I made an example now, we're going to look at everything. We look at audio, we look at the visuals, whatever.
Yeah.
We know, okay, I need to do better. And that's learning and that's growing. And that's how you move on to the next step.
And we learn with all of that. We learn how to not do a podcast.
Exactly.
It's, you look at this and you're, that was, why did we go on that tangent? Why did you go, it's a remix. There's a lot of stuff that we learn. Okay, this is not how you do it.
Yes.
Right. But that's another way of saying, okay, so that means the other way is how you do it.
Yes, exactly. Right. Exactly.
But in that same breath, I would say with all of the failure, you have to be soft. You have to be hard and critical on yourself.
Yes.
Right. Point out the failures, but be soft on yourself and saying, but they're okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to fail. And of course, this is not perfect.
Yes.
I've just started this and we're starting this podcast now. That's why we're using it as an example. But if you're starting a new business, a new degree, a new whatever, school, whatever you're starting, right?
Exactly.
Be in a mindset where you're ready for healthy failure.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the sooner you get that, the easier it is to accept.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be like, this needs to be this way and that way and that way, and I'm not going to accept anything. I think there's also a balance between saying, okay, this is just terrible now. I didn't put in any effort and still be okay with it. You need to say, you know what, set standards at least when starting, because everything you're going to start or do, there's effort required.
Intention. No, I think, you got to put in, give 100%, right? Or 80% or whatever high percentage makes the most sense, right?
Yeah.
But you can't give 10% and say, but I I was planning on doing something bad. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. You plan to do something good.
Yeah.
When you start, it tends out to not be very good.
Yes.
And then that's okay. But you can't plan to do something. That's not how you can.
That's something else. No, we're not saying that. We're not saying that. But yeah, put in the effort.
Yeah.
Put in the effort, and nothing is going to come easy. Or, effortless. But I think it's important to accept it.
Nothing comes easy.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing comes easy or effortless.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it now. It's definitely that acceptance.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think that's a big thing for me. If you can't, it's so much harder getting through it. With everything. Yeah. I think whether we're starting something or not, just being able to accept it.
Yeah.
If you, what example can I use? If you're in a relationship, for an example, accept that there's going to be conflict, because once the conflict is there, you're going to be so surprised. You're not going to know how to handle it because you haven't accepted that.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself for it at least.
I agree. I agree.
So, I think there's different aspects of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But effort.
Yeah. Effort
and acceptance,
And on that acceptance, so I think the first step to acceptance is acknowledging, right? Acknowledging where you are, whether it's in the beginning, middle, or end of something.
Yes.
You have to acknowledge this is where I am.
Yeah.
This is what I feel, what I think.
Yeah.
All right. And then you can start accepting it. And
yes,
you look at the stages of grief, for instance, right? You go through the denial and the bargaining and the anger.
Yes.
Right. And then depression. And then eventually you get to, we also know it's not actually as 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, no,
it's not. So you jump around, but acceptance is a process that happens, right? It's the same. It also doesn't come without effort.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a mindset kind of thing.
Yeah.
I believe, everything comes from there.
Yeah.
And the way you look at things, the way you view things, that is how things will be.
Yeah.
Or look, And I feel like once that is even with sport and whatever, have the right mindset.
Yeah. That's true. The right mindset can get you through anything.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes when you say that, right? Some people take offense because they're like, I have this problem and what you're telling me, it's my fault because I didn't have the right mindset. No, that's not it. The right mindset doesn't mean, let's take anxiety as an example. It doesn't mean get over it, right?
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, you want to be empathetic with it as well,
Yeah, it means you can adopt the mindset, and it's not the same as saying, just don't be sad, just don't be anxious.
Of course.
But having a mindset that enables you to grow and to get to that place and to start something.
Yes.
Right?
No, 100%. I agree. Yeah, it's not about just putting you in there, sink or swim. There's stages to it.
Yeah.
To ease you through the process.
Yeah.
And so forth. So, Question.
Yes.
Just besides the podcast, the last thing that you started.
Yeah. Good question.
Good
question. So my brain. So I have ADHD, right? So all of the time my brain's all over the place.
Yeah.
And I have a tendency, it's like in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
There's the ADHD tangent. So in Greek mythology, there's a creature called the Hydra.
Okay.
The hungry bird of it. So when this creature's head gets cut off, 2 more take its place.
Okay. Interesting.
See the sign, I'll tell you why this is relevant.
Yeah.
So ADHD, or my version of ADHD, is the same in that I have a plate full of things all the time.
Yeah.
And as soon as I get rid of one of the things, for some reason, I put 2 more things on my plate. And so to answer your question of when's the last time I started something?
Yeah.
Right. I just started working on 2 new businesses.
Okay.
Right. Along with the podcast that we also started. Right. So so you know this, I started a nonprofit a while ago called Blue Rose for mental health.
Yes. Check it out, guys.
And there's some exciting stuff happening back in the background there. When we can definitely talk about that stuff at a stage as well. But I want to branch out from the mental health one and start a conservation one. Okay. And I want to start a forensics one. So obviously you know this, but a little background on me is I did my master's in genetics, brain genetics specifically. So my interests in psychology and neuroscience and forensics and all of this stuff drives me to want to apply that and learn, right?
Of course, yeah.
So I started working on a business model that will help publish some scientific papers.
Okay.
I started working on a forensics consultancy business as well.
Okay.
So I'm juggling these two things, and in the meantime, I still have my main job.
Exactly. I was just going to say now.
Which is in itself actually multiple jobs as well.
Yes.
So in terms of when last did I start something? I think the question for me should be, when am I not starting things? But it's such a good question.
And I mean, it's exciting. Like even looking at you talk now and it's exciting for you. You know, you got all this knowledge and like you studied all of these things, and now you're actually doing something meaningful with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting. How could you not want to start?
Yeah.
You know, which is cool, and it is like I want to ask also, like, are you like balance that? Because sometimes it can become too much.
Absolutely.
We take too much on our plate and we don't know, you know, how to prioritize potentially, or, you know, it's just too much and we don't want to burn ourselves out. Like you were explaining last week, you know, we burn ourselves out with all these things, but now we can't give 100% of ourselves because we neglect ourselves and our well-being, you know? Yeah. So it's hard to balance. Well, how are you finding the balancing with everything?
You know, so Trevor Noah actually said something that stuck. He did some interview somewhere. He said something that stuck with me.
Yeah.
Right. And he said that because I suspect also has just, I don't know. Just, it seems, I see some similarities.
Okay.
But he said because he does all sorts of things all the time. And he says at a stage that despite the fact that he's busy, the things that he's busy with are specifically the things that recharge his battery, right?
Oh,
right. So he does stand up and he's out there doing shows and that's where he gets his energy from. Right.
Interesting.
And so for me, in terms of balancing it, right? What I've learned obviously throughout life, of doing to me, if I try and focus on limited things, if I try to keep that plate clean and only have the two things, then I never actually get to those two things, right? Because my brain constantly wants to do other things, right?
Interesting.
It's the same thing. And so it's the truth, but it's also a joke with ADHD people in that there's a nice little golden hyper-focus moment that hits sometimes, and you can do like 3 hours worth of work in like 20 minutes, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then the 4 hours after that, you will do nothing. So, what I've learned is to sort of go with what direction it's pulling me in. And if it's necessary for me to hyperfixate and go down a rabbit hole and do something else, sometimes I've learned that it actually makes more sense to lean into it than it is to try and resist it. And because if you try and resist it and you keep trying to do your actual work,
that's true.
You actually don't get to this or that.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
But if you go, okay, I can see that my brain is going here now. I'm gonna double down and I'm gonna go there.
Yeah.
Right? Then you can sort of finish it off, and then sometimes you can bring it back to the thing that you're supposed to.
Yeah, I suppose. That's interesting, because I've always heard, because I've been like that, where I'm taking too many things on at the same time.
Yeah.
And like growing up, I always heard that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Don't do it because your focus now gets split.
Yeah.
So I've always heard like focus on one thing at a time, but I always found myself doing more than one thing at the same time.
Yeah.
And I also couldn't understand like how does one balance this. This was like a struggle that I had. And for me, on the other hand, I think I do need to like just limit myself and restrict myself not to take too much.
There's a balance.
Yeah, I know there has to be that balance, because otherwise it can become overwhelming. Maybe just focus on 3 things or 3 businesses at a time. Also, but not overstep it. And also when the one, what I picked up with myself is when the one fails, you almost like justify with the other one. So you say, you know what, that one is failing, but at least I'm doing well here. Then you leg that one. You understand? So that is the problem I had, instead of like giving 100% on all 3.
Yeah. So with the giving 100% on all 3, I find, so sometimes you are able to give 100% to 3 or 5 different things.
Yeah.
By not giving 100% all the time, right? What I mean by that is right now we're doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm don't know if it's 100%, but I'm giving you as much as I can give you for this right now.
Yes.
Right? And when I walk out this door, I will give close to 0% to this, and I'll give close to 100% to the next
some, right? Okay.
Or at least I will try to. Right?
Yes.
So, yeah, and it's so easy to take too much onto your plate, and especially if you have the type of yes man mentality, and you're like, opportunity, I'll take it on, and then sometimes you find yourself in a position where you're like, what have I said yes to now? Like now I'm committed to this new construction business.
Yes.
True story.
Okay.
So we currently building some stuff at my main job.
Okay.
Which I'll speak about the main job at a different stage. I think.
Yeah.
But and I was just talking to the construction workers, and I like they wanted lunch, and so I went to go buy them lunch. Right, and we started chatting.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to them that I play guitar, and they actually invited me to come play in their band tomorrow.
Nice.
So that's maybe what I did tomorrow. But and we started, and this guy says now he's actually a welder by trade.
Okay.
And he had a workshop at a stage, and he's working towards starting a new thing. And I'm a curious person, obviously a scientist and scientifically minded. So
yeah.
And I ask questions, and before I know it, he's now sending me photos of his work with the prices, and he wants to collaborate so that we can start a construction business together.
Okay.
And I'm like,
that's very quick.
How did I get? I just spoke to someone.
Yeah.
And now and sometimes I start doing it before I realize.
Yes.
I'm just putting, because for my main job, I'm a business development manager.
Yeah.
Right, for a couple of companies, and so I think sometimes, and coordinator / janitor, it's just a little bit of everything. So I think sometimes my mind works like that, where when you give me practical problems or your ideas, right, especially ideas, I immediately start making it into a thing, and then at some stage, sometimes I realize, wait, this wasn't my thing. Why did I think this? I'm emailing the CIPC, the business registration.
Yes.
Wait, why am I registering it?
Yes,
what is this? How did I
do this?
Yeah. So and that's a danger, right? That's something that you can't actually say yes to people all the time. You can't say yes to things all the time. You mentioned 3 things, right?
Yeah. Look, it's a good trait, I think, especially for your own life, because if you have that sense of mentality, you got this idea, and immediately when you hear the idea, you're like, okay, I'm going to do this, and you work through it in your mind, without you even noticing, and I think that is good, because at least you get to start things.
Yeah.
You get to start things, and you get to see it through.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that's a struggle to just restart, because of that, like we spoke about earlier on, that sense of fear of or talking yourself out of the situation, to seem out to the public or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So having that naturally, I mean, it
seems like a good thing.
Yeah, no, definitely.
There's a danger, but it. I've said yes to things in my life which
you're not supposed to say.
And I'm lucky that it's usually worked out really, really well.
Yeah.
I have a story.
Okay.
It's a long story. You have to bear with me. Also, go for it. Right. So when I was, for the recording purposes, I'm going to say when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
So we were on a school trip. When I was 18 years old. We were on a school trip through Africa. And we went up to Zimbabwe, Zambia, Namibia, like all over Botswana. Cool. And one night we were sitting there at a bar. And so it was years old. Like, 18 years old. We were sitting at this bar. And like it was already a big trip. We had already done stuff. And my one friend was also, my 18-year-old friend was also, back then was also sitting by the bar. He was drinking alone, but like partying alone.
Okay.
My other friend was drinking alone in terms of sulking alone.
Okay.
And I walked into this bar and I went up to the party one. I mean, the sulking one wanted to be alone for a bit. So it was like, okay, I'll give him his way. I went up to the party one and I was like, party together. And he started buying me gin and tonic. We had a couple, and then that's this massive guy, man, comes up to me here. He like looks down. He's like, "You want to party?" And the gin and tonic spoke through me. Said yes. And he starts buying us brandy and coke, right?
Okay.
And we drink the brandy and coke, and he tells us all sorts of stories about his life and what the travels and stuff. And one of the stories that he tells us is he says there's a hot spring. Right? I think because we traveled so much, I actually can't remember which country we were in.
Okay.
I iterate because we traveled so much, not because we drank so much. We'll take that. At 18. And he said he speaks about this hot spring, and let's say I think it was Zambia.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And it's like, it's 200 meters that way. And we all like, okay, whatever. There's not a hot spring. Right. And I think at some point when the brandy and coke started flowing, my other friend who was initially sulking,
yes,
was also lured.
Of course.
So it's the four of us now.
Yeah.
And with brandy and convincing, eventually I say, okay, take us to the hot spring.
Okay.
All right. He's like,
okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Immediately I go, no, let's not do it. He said, no, I'll be right back. He wants to go get a bigger car. So he drives away there. The party friend. Like, he's there like, woo, we go hot spring.
Of course.
My other friend who's a super intelligent guy and guy really like, what's the word? That he like responsible.
Yes.
He like voice notes his mom, and he's like, if you never hear from me again, I just want to say that. I'm like, he still had some brandy and coke. He's there putting it in the sink. The party friend is then trying to save off.
You just in the middle, looking around.
After like looking at all of this, at that stage I was at that sort of tipsy level where it's like, okay, just for safety reasons, I'm not actually going to drink more.
Yeah.
So that I can just, if needs be and a problem arises, I can sort it out.
Yes.
But he comes back, and actually before he comes back, two more people that were very much not 18. I think they must have been 16 at that stage.
Okay.
Yeah. They came in and we like, we're going to the hot spring, come. And they're like, they're stupid.
No, they're all just annoying,
naive. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of us jumped in this bakkie. I get in the front.
Okay.
Right. Of the pickup truck, the bakkie, and we we go, and he like shouts. So he takes brandies and cokes with him in the bucky.
Yeah.
And he shouts it. I think it was in Shona, which probably means we were in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
But to the bartender, I don't speak Shona, but and we go. And you remember he said this thing is 200 meters away.
Yes.
And we keep driving, and it's not 200 meters.
Yeah.
Right? And once again, I'm like, oh my goodness, we going to get stolen.
Yeah. Something. Yeah.
And I see this, it's dark. It's like 2 a.m. or something.
Okay. Yeah.
And I see this dodgy farm gate. I'm like, please don't turn in there. Please. And turns in there. All right, here you go. I'm like, what did I get?
Yeah, there was something to, yeah. All these extra people are broken as well.
Not just me, but I mean,
exactly.
What have I done?
Yeah.
And we stop. And I see steam come up from the floor.
Okay.
And he I think Katy Perry was playing on the radio. He like,
Katy Perry's always there.
Not in person, no. Okay, cool story. No. Oh yeah, don't forget to mention.
He was there.
She was actually there.
I was believed to be a singer now.
He turns up the radio.
Yeah.
It was like, it's a Tiger song that was so famous at a stage. That one.
Oh yeah. I can't remember how it goes. Yeah,
but that one, that blasts, and the guys in the back and the girl, they get in their underwear and they go jump in the I think there's hot springs. I'm standing next to the side listening to Katie.
Yeah.
And I don't smoke. In fact, I don't actually drink that much.
Yeah.
Right. Especially, I'm weirdly enough more so when I was 18 than I do now. But and he offers me a cigarette. I don't smoke.
Yeah.
But for some reason, and I think maybe I'm like, oh yeah, of course.
You just went to it. Yeah. You okay? I see.
And we're standing there, and while they're swimming, he asks me, do you want to party more? Like in his accent, do you want to party more? Right. Yeah, it's a good idea.
Why not? Yeah.
I'm this far.
Exactly. You've shown saying yes, all right.
And you've shown me a hot spring.
Exactly. Why not? Yeah.
And they get back, they're wet now, obviously just coming out of the hot spring. They don't know. They think we're going home. They just see us going deeper into this jungle. And we stop next to a river, and they get out, and he tells them, right, so obviously there are crocodiles and worse, hippos in the water here. And what you do is you go up to the side, splash, get away, see if there's movement. If there's not movement, then you can go clean yourself, because they're a bit muddy from the hot spring.
Okay.
So they clean themselves. There's probably crocodiles and hippos around.
Yeah.
They jump in, but still they all think we're going home.
Yes.
Right. We drive out of the farm gate. Home's that way. We turn left. They have no idea where we're going.
Yeah.
We drive through this like informal settlement thing. At some stage, he like rolls down at the window and he was like, duck. So they all duck. They think it's just like a thorn tree that came over.
Okay. Like, you don't know why it's like, and what time is this? Like,
this is probably like 3 a.m.
Okay. About 3-4. Okay.
And we like stop at a shebeen.
Okay.
And he like goes up to the window, and he like he knocks on the window. The lady opens the curtain. He makes eye contact with him. She sees him, and she's like immediately recognizes him. She's like, this guy. He's back.
Yeah.
And so she comes out, she counts us, and she comes out with quart-sized beers.
Okay.
And we all get a beer. Because I stopped drinking when we left, or slowed down.
Yeah.
Because I still actually have a brandy. One of the down here somewhere. Now I have a beer,
and everything is just piling up.
It's just like, so
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I need to, and I start passing. At this stage, my friend who was the sulking friend earlier.
Oh yeah,
he's had enough brandy to now also become the party friend.
Yeah.
Of course. So I start passing him some of my stuff. Right?
Okay, cool.
And we get our beers, and we get back in the lucky. He gets the guy driving gets a thing over the intercom, the radio actually. And it turns out he was a park ranger. And the message he gets is, oh, there are lions in the area. If you want to go check them out. He looks at me, he's like, let's go look at the lion.
Oh.
Luckily, because I stopped drinking, my mind goes, no, let's not go look at lions now.
I don't want
That'd
to
be
someone else's view beside now.
It's like, no, let's go. We go. I didn't see the lions. I don't know if the lions saw me. That's very possible. But so we've buntu bash there through the jungle in the savannah and stuff, and we get out, and this surreal experience of as we get out, it's the national road.
Yeah,
but there is nothing. It's open, right? There's a petrol station.
Okay.
And all around us, we find ourselves in the middle of a herd of buffalo.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you've seen a buffalo.
Yeah. They can't be feet.
So we slowly clutch controlling through this herd of buffalo. They just kind of chilling. And,
oh, wow.
And I'm just here, you know that scene from Jurassic Park where the T-Rex looks with his eye through the window? That's just this big buffalo head.
Yeah. I was going to say, it sounds like a movie now.
And we go through the buffalo herd. I can see through the window. They too drunk and uninformed to know.
I was gonna ask. Yeah. You're the only sane one here that knows what's going on. You know,
sober and been actually told with the plan. They're just sitting at the back in the underwear, wet and cold.
Yeah, just going with whatever, lead the way.
It's like, what's going on?
Crazy, yeah.
And so from there, we do end up going home.
Okay. Eventually.
And stop sort of in front of the park, and at this stage, I'm still passing some of my alcohol on Timothy. I don't want to be rude and not good. So I'm sort of trying to do it because the guy bought it for me.
Exactly.
I don't want to. Exactly. I know that I'm older.
And if he's been showing up all night.
Yeah,
it's quite anything. It's nice for you guys,
But and I'm also distracting him because the original party friends, peeing against his car. So I'm like, look at me, not at the alcohol that I'm passing.
Just trying to statement. Oh yeah.
And this guy, he was actually going through such a tough time, right?
Okay.
That's why this whole thing. And I as I spoke to him, I'm like, he was going through a separation at that time.
Okay.
And he really just wanted to party. He was just he was just a dude without ill intentions who wanted to forget about life for a little bit and just party. And
that's crazy. Okay.
I'm like, with that realization, we heard hyenas. There's a fence right next to us. There's lots of holes in the fence. We're like, it's bedtime.
Yeah, I know.
And we go to bed. And I'm like, and I think back on that and saying yes to that could have very easily been a mistake.
Definitely.
That could have very easily been a human trafficking moment.
Yes.
But it didn't. Right. I put my trust in this individual, which is not something I do very often.
Yeah.
And it turned out okay, right?
Mm.
And that's one example of a place where saying yes to things and where fear not ruling ended up being good.
No, definitely. It could have gone. I thought I was expecting that because you mentioned that you were going to give the story based on you saying yes to all these things,
So there's a danger in it, but there's also value in it.
Definitely.
Potential value.
Definitely. Look, as long as you are also aware, you told yourself, okay, look, I'm going to stop drinking now.
Yeah.
So I can be aware, so I can think straight.
I think that's an important distinction as well. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And you took on the adventure, you learned, you actually realized while he was going through, and it was an honest, sincere man,
Yeah.
Even though he was so big and scary and you took something out of it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's crazy that he just did that with random people.
It was the most, not by far the most crazy story that but one of
get lots of
it's like, I do have a lot of stuff. That's it.
Yeah.
But,
it's a crazy realization. Yeah. It's hard to tell also, do I trust it? Do I go this way or don't I?
Yeah.
I suppose it's just that sense of instinct.
It's faith, I think, as well. It's a leap of faith it's faith and trust and not letting fear dictate what you do and and starting something, saying yes to something, going and trying it, because it's a, I'm sure there's a quote somewhere that's something down the lines of, if you try and fail, then you've learned. If you don't try, then you've also failed and you haven't learned.
Exactly. Might as well take the lesson out of it. I know exactly. Right, that's fair.
But with the danger of don't say yes to giant men at bars when you're 18.
Yeah. Don't. Most probably not. But I mean,
do what I say, don't do what I do.
yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair.
It was a mistake, probably.
Look, at the end of the day, it taught you. We got a good story out of it.
Oh, wow.
You know, we got lessons through it. You thought about it afterwards and you said, you know what, things could have gone.
There are other risks that you can say yes to, right?
Yeah.
If I do this, I have a big risk of failing.
Yeah.
That's a big risk. Yeah. Sometimes I've also learned that some, and that's that balance that we spoke about. It. Sometimes you gotta, and I still, obviously, with my new construction, still struggle to say no.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I was talking about saying no, and yes, I was actually taught by my mother, you say no. Because I said yes all the time. I was a softie, especially to my sister. So I was like a softie. And everything goes and you say no.
Yeah.
Learn to, I think it is more of a lesson of how people treat you.
Absolutely.
You know, respect yourself enough to be able to say no to the person and not just yes and trying to please the next person, even though they're disrespectful to you or whatever the case may be. I think that was the lesson behind her telling me it's okay to say no. And then I used the no on her. And she was like, no, don't use it on me. Everyone else besides me. So, I mean, it's the lessons. You know, sometimes we naturally like that.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I was naturally just saying yes to everything, you know, and we need to be taught. And then things happen in our lives that teaches us.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, I think for me, so it sounds to me that maybe you internalized it by people telling you to say no.
Yeah.
For me, even though I've heard lots of times that I should say no, I still throughout my whole life and even now find myself in times and places where like I realize I am doing something I'm doing something for someone else at my detriment and at my expense without them. There's zero chance that they would ever return the favor.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's just, I find myself doing things for other people all the time.
Okay.
Right.
Does it benefit you in a way, or
obviously sometimes it does, but a lot of times I find myself in that, and probably now with my job and stuff, in that position of really I should have said no to some of these things. Right? Really, this was not my responsibility.
Yeah,
and because I'm typical, it's the same risk when it comes to saying yes to things, in that they're like, I'm tired. Will you do this for me? Like, yeah. I only have 17 other things to. I can squeeze it in between number 15 and 14. Yeah. I'll postpone 50. I was like, I'll do this.
Yeah.
I was like, you say you got to say no.
Definitely. Yeah. You definitely, and you will know. I feel like you will know when you need to say no, and when you need to say yes. You also don't want to be selfish in a sense of, you know, I'm only going to say yes to things that's going to be beneficial for me.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and you know what? Actually, I'm just being a good friend right now. I'm being out a friend. He asked me to do a favor, and I'm being a good friend. I get nothing out of it.
No, true.
You'll be a good friend, you know. But I mean, that in itself is good for you.
I think it should be. That's just being a good person.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes being a good person comes at the risk of other people being bad people, in the sense that they can take advantage. They see this person gets my food if I ask it.
Yes. I mean, why not?
Yeah, but we're going to keep asking it.
Exactly. I mean,
and like an honest and open and kind person goes, well, clearly this person's struggling to get their food. I just blind.
You know,
I was gonna get their food for it.
yeah. Everything else is fine. He goes there, but for this only reason he can't get his food.
So I suppose there is that balance, and I think that there's lots of times where not only will you not gain, you will lose a little bit out of doing something for someone else. But even then, sometimes I think it's worth it not for you necessarily, but I think about, how I think about it. I think about it in terms of putting good into the world, the universe, right?
Okay.
Right. And I don't expect the return on investment necessarily, but I do want to live in a world that has good happening, right? That's why I do things like start non-profit organizations for mental health and conservation. And the reason I went into science in the first place was to try and help the world somewhere.
Yes.
Right. So, and I do believe that, and there's been that putting in kindness and trying to do good. It does. Sometimes it comes at a sacrifice, right? Sometimes you are not seeing the return on investment. But maybe I really have faith that maybe the world finds it at some stage. Right.
But so that's a nice way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a slightly different way of looking at it.
That's the way you're phrasing it. Subtext that I completely disagree.
Sounding nice, yes. But I mean, like, I get it. You're trying to bring like good into the world and everything. But I feel like there's a point where, like, for an example, this person keeps asking you to get his food for them. Let's go that example. I know. Yeah. And I think there's a point where you need to say, you know what? I actually respect myself enough to say no and not to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Because that, in some cases, that's what the person is doing.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's good to the world or not, I need to prioritize myself or put myself first at some point as well.
Yeah.
And I think that is where I was like, and I understand the whole goodness of the world and things, but there is a certain point where you realize, okay,
I'm not being selfish. I'm just taking care of myself.
Yes. I think there's that point or that balance where you need to be like, you know what, you can actually eat your own food.
You can,
and that also in itself is doing good.
Yeah.
Because I'm respecting myself, I can teach someone else how to respect themselves as well and not be taken advantage of, for an example. And that's where my disagreement comes with that. But I suppose you have to look at the balance between the two.
Yeah. Healthy boundaries as well.
Yes. Definitely. And I think I'm so strong on that because like I think we had a conversation last week also where I was like growing up, I was the soft one. And a lot of things I do now, like when we spoke about MMA, joining MMA, that is me trying to be tough or recreate that soft child Dane. So I'm very hard and I'm okay with saying no now. I'm okay with standing ground.
How many life lessons? You mentioned MMA, so we've both been doing it for a while now, and like how many little like things that coach shouts at me while I'm getting pummeled. That I'm like, that's a good life lesson. Just wait. Just guard my brightest, break my ankle weekly. Okay. Another broken toe. And then I'm saying one of them is stand your ground. Right. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. It's stand your ground. Standing ground. It's like you're not running away. You're not even attacking. You're just standing your ground.
Yeah. Oh wow. I haven't had that moments at MMA before actually.
Yeah. Another one is get up. Work for it.
Yeah. Protect yourself.
Protect yourself. Hey, that's a good one. Yeah, I remember that.
But yeah, I suppose we can take it wherever. I mean, you were busy fighting and you took something like that. But you could use it in your everyday life, and not just when you busy killing the next person then.
Getting killed.
Or getting killed, yeah.
Well, that's actually another one that stuck with me at a stage is, sometimes it feels like you're going to literally going to die, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily actually even from being hit, although that's not pleasant either.
Yeah, but
from a thing of like tiredness, right? Sometimes you're so tired.
Yes.
That last minute feels like it, you feel like you are dying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But it's intense.
But having the resilience to be like, this will pass.
Yeah.
This is actually this is just a minute that
It's another minute.
like, don't look like I'm going to die, because then he hit that what makes him want to hit harder.
Exactly. Don't show that you die.
So don't show that you're tired.
Yeah,
but I just think it out for a minute. You're gonna get some time to rest afterwards.
Yes.
And then you'll recover. You will recover.
And that's a nice way of pushing yourself as well, because we get pushed. We get pushed in class. We were like, I can't do this anymore. You seem that you're going to do this. And eventually you do it. And you're like, wow, I actually did it. I can do this.
Yeah. It's like facing the punches.
Yeah.
As well. I remember we all, when we start, we flinch.
Exactly.
Because we don't do it, because we don't face the punches, we get hit more.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's just about getting used to that. I remember like the first time someone like hit me like a solid hit. I was so surprised. And it was a guy younger than me. And it was like, because like when we start, you always think, the big guys, they are the like tough ones or whatever, And this was a skinnier guy than me, was smaller than me, was younger than me. And the two of us was sparring, and he gave me like a solid one. And I was like, oh shit. This guy, but he saw it, and it was like, are you good or whatever? And we like carried on. And that was the first time I realized like, me judging, you just don't judge firstly, number one. But also as time goes along, you get used to that. It's okay if I get hit. I'm not as shocked now. I can throw back. Okay, if I do get hit, I can do this now, whatever. His guard is down because he hit me. So you learn as you get into things or get used to it.
There's so much philosophy behind martial arts. You know me, and I grew up with Dragon Ball Z, right? I love, and it's the same lessons that I think maybe in some level I learned as a kid watching Dragon Ball Z. They're becoming clearer to me while I do MMA.
Okay.
Now, in the sense of exactly these things that you say, and the mindset and the learning from being punched and getting up and don't judge.
Yes.
Right. All of these lessons, there's so, and like even when you are fighting, knowing when to be resilient, when to be hard.
Yes.
When to be soft.
Yes.
When to evade.
Yes.
When to attack.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's in that comes back to saying yes and no as well in a way as well.
Interesting.
Right. If the very big EFC heavyweight champion says, "You, me, cage Friday," that's not a time where you say yes.
Definitely not. Unless you want to die.
It's like, it'll be a learning experience. You will definitely fail. And you will learn if you can remember anything afterwards.
Crazy.
But there's so much like life lessons. But maybe it's also just me. I'm a type of guy where, and especially when I'm going through hard times, right? And I think for future podcasts, we can talk about some of the hard times. But like I sort of, maybe it's the scientific mindset as well. I question things, right? But not question in terms of what are you doing? Like question in terms of I need answers. I ask questions because I want answers. And sometimes I find depth in things that are actually simple. But that the depth exists, whether it's MMA or a comedy series. There's also an anime called Gintama.
Okay.
Right.
Gintama.
It's the most bizarre simple, silly thing, right? But the amount of life lessons that show, right? It's just one example. I use example. You can get. I have a friend who he always jokes and he says or everything he says is probably a How I Met Your Mother quote. Right. And it's true. Like most of his values and most of his life. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that's episode. You get life is full of wisdom, right?
No, definitely.
And obviously, and sometimes I think, unfortunately, it's necessary that you get hurt enough to want to find answers, right? Sometimes if someone just tells you, sometimes if you're not going to learn, sometimes you have to fail.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In order to fail, you have to try.
Of course.
And to try, you have to start.
Yeah.
Same way.
Yeah. So, okay. Interesting. And it's also about how you need to be open to receive that as well. If you go into class, if you're going to MMA, you open to learn. Like I mentioned to you now, I don't normally, for me, it's about getting physically tougher. It's to take my mind off things. I feel like it's therapy as well. But if you open like that, like whatever coach is shouting at you and you took it to a whole new level where you said, you know what? I should actually do this. This is how I, get up.
Yeah.
Or, protect yourself or whatever. And you took it outside as well. And you use that, protect yourself now, not just physically, but, mentally, emotionally, whatever. So you need to be open for that. And that's a nice way of looking at it. We can learn wherever we are.
Yeah.
There's lessons everywhere.
Yeah. And there's also, we used to joke with the, like my Afrikaans teacher in school, where when we analyzed poems, the most ridiculous conclusions. It's like, oh, the grass is green is jealousy. Because she's lying on the grass, this means she was jealous. That's nonsense. But now I find myself doing that without solicitation. I walk in the shop and I'm like, this vegetable costs 80 cents, 80%. You have to give 80%.
What in the poems do you in school? Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, now I'm doing it too.
Yeah.
I'm also there. Overthinking.
Yeah.
Right? We spoke about overthinking.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes it can be a flaw and sometimes it can be a superpower. And it's just like the thing, it's balance.
Yeah, definitely. And I think balance comes in everywhere.
Yeah.
Because no matter the good or bad traits, there's always two sides to it.
Yeah.
Like where you say the yes thing, there's the bad side to it as well.
There's a risk.
But there's a massive positive side to it.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, there needs to be that sense of balance.
There's always a sense of moderation and balance.
Yeah.
I say, like, take MMA. There's a risk for freaking brain damage.
Definitely.
Right. I drive a motorcycle as well. There's also a big risk.
Exactly.
But sometimes but the freedom, for me personally, the freedom that comes with having that motorcycle. Right now, I don't even go fast. I go the speed limit.
Yeah. There's an 8 Yeah.
And it's that balance. It is that balance.
That's definitely the balance. That's definitely the balance. Let's talk about seeing how the conversation went like.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good. It's good. It's really lessons and
yeah.
But like let's talk about the starting of MMA scene. That's what we meant. Like, why did you start that? How was the starting process for you? Was there fears? Did you try to talk yourself afterwards? Like, tell us about that.
So my whole life, I've always been, I've never been much of a team sport person, right?
Okay.
I did rugby, I did cricket, I did hockey, and I liked the stuff that comes with it. I like after the match when my buddies and we went to, I remember, I can give you an example. So when we were in high school, I think after cricket matches, we would come back. We had this really cool. He was a geography teacher, a really wise guy as well, very funny.
Yeah,
and he would always stop at the McDonald's on the way back.
The phone's off.
Is the phone off?
Story.
Right. So we if there was a little bit of an awkward cut, then we had a technical difficulty. This is the failure in the list.
Yeah, there we go. Now we know to start new things.
And all right. So I was just saying about I had this cool teacher, right? And he, after cricket matches, he would take us and we'd like go to McDonald's and go to the beach. And like that stuff was always cool, right?
Okay, yeah.
And in terms of the actual sport, what I found was nice for me. I actually started doing like it was like there was this Olympic, I think he was like a 10 camp Olympic champion or something like that.
Okay, cool.
And he was like a personal trainer. That was something that I did with my brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Right. Who major important figure in my life. And we can talk about him, or inevitably I will talk about him a lot probably as well. But he actually passed away a couple of years ago. And it was major, but we can talk about that another time, I think. But, so I started doing a sort of personal training thing with this guy. Like, okay, this more one-on-one type thing. This is more my mind. And then I started doing historical European martial arts. Right?
Oh, okay.
Which is...
That's why he's killing everyone in England. The history. I wanted to say, yeah.
Yeah, that was like swords and spears and daggers and stuff.
Okay.
It was quite cool. So I did that for a couple of years. I'm like, this is like my type of sport. And then there were a lot of years that I didn't do any sport really.
Yeah.
And I, similarly to how I find that philosophy from Dragon Ball Z and find that it's like MMA, I was like, I've always been drawn to it. And when I started, I'm like, this is my sport. This is absolutely my sport.
You just knew like immediately.
Yeah,
was there fears or anything like that when you started, or?
Yeah, I think there's always with something like a contact sport, right? I'm a guy who likes to think about things.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, same.
And if you tell me that I'm going to get kicked in the head and punched in the head and kicked in the head and punched in the head. So I don't actually want brain damage.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is an opinion that you have. You don't want brain damage. Right. And so that's a fear, and like my partner was also scary. I was scared. Like obviously my mother actually only now I think really understood that I've been doing MMA for a long time now.
Yeah.
Long story, but we can talk about the fact that I moved back home for a while, but another story for time.
We got such amount of topics.
We can talk about the hurts and the stuff later, but and so the fear was that fear of damage and being damaged, and especially my mind, and that. But I did a lot of research, as I do with this type of thing.
With everything that you start, eh?
Yeah, with everything that I start. So when you start, do research.
Yes, that's the start.
Yeah. And I saw, okay, what the statistics are among hobbyists and professionals, and and what to do to prevent it, and how often you should be sparring, and we should actually, I know we don't wear headgear most of the time, or any of the, well, we should be wearing headgear.
Yes.
And the statistics don't actually show that high of a risk. All right. The studies, but there's also the sports. We're only seeing the older generations of the professionals now, right? It's in the relative scheme of things, MMA is not that old as a sport.
Oh yeah. I believe so. Yeah. I believe so.
So there's still a lot of research to be done, right? But point is that the benefits, the exercise, the community, the learning how to defend yourself in this country, South Africa.
You did,
I think the next lesson is probably going to be when we deflect the bullets. I'm waiting for that now. I'm ready to go.
And he's sorting back.
So I don't always know. The defense thing is there's limits to it, but but and I think when you started doing advanced as well, there was a point where you realize you can always read people. It's like when you said when you started, there was the small guy and he knocked you on the jaw, in the stomach, solar plexus, something, and you got knocked.
Yeah.
And because you thought the big guy was the big guy.
Yeah.
Now you probably at a point where you can read people a little bit better. You can see this is how they move their shoulders and this is their fight attitude.
Exactly. Yeah. If he does this, he's gonna throw that one, or you have to analyze these things. Yeah.
And it's not judging, right? We're not saying this is a small person, but you do know, right? You're bigger than me, but I will destroy you in the fight.
You learn to look out for certain things.
Exactly.
So, It's like when I started and we spoke about it last week, there was also similar reasons why we started it, right? But I was also just very intrigued with the sport because I've never been into sports my whole life. I tried it, I tried it, the soccer and the rugby and it, but it just never got to me, And when I started this, it was like, this is it. I've never fell in love with a sport like this. That is so crazy. And I remember because we're talking about starting, the first day I started, I forget with shoes. And I had tackies on and stuff, and as I came into to the cage, and we had told before that I got glasses on, and I'm like, I'm the only one in tackies. And I just said, you move my tacky, and I got socks on him. I was like, we do this bare feet. And there's always going to be that uncertainty, or I don't know how things work, or you have a picture in your mind. Because I thought when we got there, maybe we're going to have to introduce yourself. We're going to, there wasn't those kind of things, because we paint this picture before we start something out, how things are going to be.
Absolutely.
But then it's not even the same,
It's different.
Sometimes we were scared of a certain thing, but it's not even there.
It's something else. That's so important, right? When you start things, the things we were scared about often are not even the important things.
Exactly.
And things we had no idea about end up being the real scary. You didn't even know about that.
Exactly. So and you're not going to know it if you don't start.
Exactly.
So you have to start. And
I think that's starting. And speaking about starting, I think that's probably a good place to end.
I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that at all. But that was good. That was good. Yeah. And I mean, we spoke about it. I think it was a good topic.
That was a good topic. It makes sense.
It makes sense. Seeing that we, this is our first